What's up guys, it's SLOTH here, and today we're doing the patch notes review for the patch Divine Light, patch 4.12, which is basically the last patch before DreamHack, so it's relatively short, especially regarding balance. We'll obviously put the focus on that anyways. There are some changes that are not in the patch notes directly, but we can see them on Twitter. We look into that after we go through the patch notes on the website. We're starting with the new skins, and then work our way down. First, we have a new Ra skin, a Chibi skin, Beamy Chibi. Pretty funny voice pack is what I'll say. The laugh is more extreme than the normal one, and when he ults, he says bye. I like it. I think it's a cool one. Matter of taste, obviously, with the Chibi ones always. Has some slightly weird animations when he jumps and stuff like that, but generally good. Next skin is for Ho Yi. It's just an angelic skin. Also looks really nice animations too. Has changed animation for everything, so not a tier 2, even though I feel like about the model, there are quite a few things that haven't been changed from the default, but yeah, it is a higher tier skin. Then we have the Venus Aphrodite, I think it is. We'll check that after. Hair actually looks surprisingly okay in game. It doesn't look as nice as in the card, obviously, but could have looked a lot worse. Actually turned out okay. I feel like the unfortunate thing about the skin is that a lot of the model changes are more regarding the front of the model. You can't really see too much from the back. It looks a bit like a recolor from the back, but it's still nice and still has new animations. By the way, this one, no one really knows how to get it yet. I feel like it might be something either related to DreamHack or more likely to the Hand of the Gods, Smite Tactics game. We will see about that. Then there is an Izanami skin. This is, as far as I know, a tier 2. So just model changes there. The clothing looks really nice in game. It looks like kind of shiny. And last but not least, we have the Elevate Ares, which actually turned out pretty decently with the cape and everything. I was very positively surprised with that one more than with any other skin, because I thought putting that on the Ares skin, Ares default model is not going to look that good, but it actually looks quite nice. So while not the most crazy skins this patch, I would say most of the skins are good, well executed, and they resemble their card arts very much, which I think is a nice plus. Venus Aphrodite, yes. And then we have a new dance mode for Izanami. We have a ward, Elevate Ward, which comes along with the Ares skin. And we have some changes to Trials of Hercules. There are 2 buffs to our Trials of Hercules, which are the Church Blessings being increased. Blessing of Might increased from 20 to 40% damage, and Blessing of Protection from 20 to 40% damage reduction. Meaning basically hard mode becomes easier for those who haven't grinded through it yet, and haven't farmed it yet, and still want to get the chest or something like that. So yeah, that's why that was changed. Just take it as it is. If you want that challenge, finish it beforehand, otherwise you'll have to wait. Then we have achievements for Cu Chulainn, and we have some bug fixes. Stone of Binding now works with certain banishes that it beforehand didn't work with before for some reason. So minor fix. And Sun Wukong and Xing Tian get ability update description updates for the radius of their abilities. Guard changes, as I said, relatively small this patch. We have Athena getting a buff, which is the reach power scaling increased from 5% to 15%. I would not underestimate this. This is interesting because, especially as a jungler, Athena always had quite decent scalings for a Guardian. She has good base damage, but she also has decent scalings. And increasing that will not only increase her support potential, as you know, it's described in the description here, but also her jungle potential. And that's something worth keeping in mind. Some extra damage, 10%, is not too little, given how often reach can be used overall. And then we have Artemis. Artemis gets a buff that is concerning the base health from base health per level from 72 to 75, so some more survivability. And along with that, Suppress the Insolent gets a mana cost reduction. Decent change here. It's 20 mana off each rank, so you can use that a lot more compared to beforehand. And that really helps the laning phase, which is obviously very weak in comparison to other hunters, and very mana intense in comparison, especially because it's really hard for her to hit most of the waves. So those buffs actually do a lot for her. Kumbhakana, Mighty Yawn, gets a mana cost decrease from 70 to 90 to 50 to 70, also 20 down. Yeah, just a little bit less punishment in regards to his mana. Kumba kind of hated in casuals, hated in 3v3 and stuff like that. Not so much regarded anywhere near relevant by the pro scene. Doubt anything in either direction is going to change with this change, though. Habois, probably the most impactful change this patch, even though it may not sound like that to everyone. The post-fire time of this ability has been decreased to match the animation. If you play Habois a little bit, that means a lot for him, because usually you use the one and then you have this long awkward delay until you can use your next ability. So you kind of want to try to use the one very early in the fight or very late, and you know, kind of both with it low cooldown. This way he will get it up more often. And I can already hear a lot of the more casual oriented players or the not Conquest players complain about this one, because Habois in certain game modes does very well, in Conquest not so much. He has been picked up occasionally, but he has not been picked up to the point where he would be competitively dangerous, at least. Skila has played him in the jungle, so I wouldn't say he's not viable, but, you know, this buff is going to make him hit a lot harder, even though it doesn't change anything about the numbers. His numbers are good anyways, and just the ability to chain your abilities better means quite a lot for him. I would watch out for Habois now. And then we have Tyr. Tyr has been underperforming through Season 4. I'm not going to rant about this one because it's actually true. Tyr has not been doing too much lately. And the change itself is not even that bad. His power cleave gets a change with a mana cost, which scaled before from 50 to 70, is 50 at all ranks. What was ironic to me about this is that the reasoning was that he gets his change stance at the start of the game, so he uses more mana. Where I'm thinking, well, he has more abilities to use, so obviously he uses more mana. You just have to conserve it a little bit and not spam all your abilities. So the logic there is a bit off, especially because in the very early level it would still cost the same amount of mana. But, you know, reasoning is one thing, the end result is another, and this one I am fine with. I don't see Tyr doing too much yet, at least, unless he comes out at some pocket pick. I know that certain soul laners in the SPL really like to play him, but it's just that other solos just perform better overall at the moment in most scenarios. What's also worth pointing out is that there are a lot of gods that didn't get nerfs this patch, which is frustrating because we're looking at Kanonos, we're looking at Bellona, we're looking at Osiris, all the top tier gods, Susano, who have been there for a long time. Double J already pointed this out on Twitter. What I think that is that because of DreamHack, Hi-Rez didn't want to make any major changes to the gods anymore. So if you're wondering about that, DreamHack, as soon as it's like the end of the split for the pros, and they want to keep the competitive level on the same point that it is at the moment, so the teams can practice on that very level it's on. And if they were to change any of these gods, that wouldn't be possible to the same extent anymore, and all the gods that are getting buffed are more like lower tier at the moment anyways, and shouldn't be like too impactful all of a sudden. So that's why I think we're not seeing changes, which is still frustrating for the rest of us. And then last but not least, we have more changes, which are actually quite big, and that's the Cu Chulainn changes, which is Cu Chulainn received a buff to Warcry, which now in damage matches Spear of Mortal Pain. That is a lot more damage if he gets both ults off. I'm surprised this was done, because his ultimate already is pretty decent. The wind-up was more the issue than anything. Instead we're increasing the damage, and I don't feel like he really needed more damage, because Cu Chulainn is weird in many scenarios, in many situations, but his damage is not one of his issues. His mana conversion is increased from 10 to 15%. I would assume that also counts for the HP 5, making items with those stats a little bit better, but still not crazy good, and they're not supposed to be. But yeah, giving him more tankiness as well, which is more logical to me because he feels a little bit squishy compared to other solos, really. And the casting for his ult was reworked in such a way that beforehand, if you were above 85 rage, and then you would use an ability that drops you below 85 rage, you would effectively get the 3-second timer for the Berserk all over again. It would reset to the same timer from before, which was really annoying and really frustrating. Instead, now if you hit an enemy with an ability and your rage stays above 85 in total afterwards, so the rage regain you do through the ability keeps you above the 85 rage, then the timer doesn't reset, so you will still transform. That means you need to use your 2 in order to actually reset if you're above 85. Also, there was an issue with allies taking damage, not granting him any rage, so he couldn't transform as often during team fights as he was intended to, which is also changed, so he has even more ways to transform in team fights. And I think that's very important. I feel like he might get some nerfs later down the road in return. He probably which wasn't picked up enough yet, not played enough yet. And because of this rage gain, he will be a lot more impactful in the situations where beforehand he really struggled, which were team fights. So it's going to be interesting to see how this change or these changes affect him. Because in the end, I do not believe he was weak. He was just weird. And we'll see if we go from weird to broken, or if he'll actually end up being okay. The awkward part is in the fact that his CC is still all in his Berserk form, but with the Berserk form being easier to achieve, it might just work out for him. And with that, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope this was insightful. If you're not subscribed yet, feel free to click that sub button and maybe the bell. It really helps me out. See you for the next one tomorrow. Duke Sloth, out.